guys, I'm done. I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I put my heart and soul into my garden. It's not working. I'm a tough person, but I'm crying over my garden, okay? Look, I'll show you. I have no weeds. This is my watermelon. It's been like this for months. They're flowering. There's no weeds. What the heck? Hey guys, it's Jen and Carrie from HomesteadHow. Welcome to our homestead.
In today's video, we're going to talk about our garden and how we are two big failures. After 5 years of homesteading and gardening, we're about to give up gardening.
I'm done. I give.
We put in so much work, mostly Jen, planting seedlings in our dining room, babying them, watering them, growing them up, taking them into the greenhouse, transferring them into the garden, weeding, watering. You did most of all of that. And in the end, our garden has been a huge failure. And the purpose of this video is to explain what happened, what we learned to help you guys learn. And we're not trying to discourage people from gardening or homesteading. It may be easier for other folks to garden depending on your location and your soil and everything, but man, we've had a heck of a time, and I know a lot of people in 2020 decided to start gardening. So by the end of this video, we're going to show you why we failed, how we failed, but more importantly, what you can do to not fail and learn from our mistakes. We're going to go through the things, if we could go back in time, 5 years, what we would do differently starting out that I think would make a big difference at this point.
Right. Guys, you got to learn by our mistakes. If I could go back in time and know what I know now, I would be a much better gardener. Learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, so stay tuned through this video. We're going to go through what we did wrong, but more importantly, we're going to show you our mistakes and what we would do differently and what you can do differently if you're just starting out with your garden today. Right here. Isn't that a handsome fella? As homesteaders passing year 5, we've had many wins and losses. In terms of homesteading skills, we tend to excel at building projects and livestock. Stop following me everywhere! We were so proud to have our DIY solar generator trailer recently published in Mother Earth News magazine. After that, we felt like we could finally raise our status to that of legit homesteaders. But then came our gardening season and a bunch of huge failures, and we officially downgraded our status back down to rookie city slickers just playing homestead. When it comes to homesteading, we've made many mistakes over these last 5 years, and we're the first to admit it. We are rookies learning as we go. But with all of that said, we want to also say that gardening is really hard. What could be so hard about it? You plant some seeds, water them, pick some weeds. Easy, right? No, wrong. You have to deal with poor soil conditions, drought, insects and pests, disease. Despite optimal conditions, some things just don't take well in certain areas. You could end up working for months and months, as we did, and a little pest could destroy your entire garden. It can take years of trial and error to get a thriving garden. With the uncertainty of COVID-19, a ton of people decided to start gardening this year. For us, it was our 5th year. Seeds were getting sold out, with demand ever increasing. In 2020, it seemed like everyone was starting a garden. With grocery store shelves going empty and overall uncertainty, many people decided to start a garden because they felt how unstable the world really is. So, we're testing it out. I don't think this is going to put much heat off, but a lot of people on YouTube and Pinterest are doing this. If nothing else, it'll look really cool. Not to pat ourselves on the back, but we felt this instability long before COVID-19. In fact, instability in the world is the main reason we made it our goal in life to purchase our property and to become homesteaders. The simple fact that absent a grocery store or drive-through restaurant, most people would be starving in a couple weeks should really make people think harder about feeding themselves. Personally, in this day and age, I myself feel pathetic that absent a grocery store, I'm not sure I could feed my family, and eventually we'd starve. So naturally, growing our own food is a huge part of our homesteading world. We've had some successes over the years. Last year we grew a nice crop of tomatoes and cucumbers, but we've had many more failures. We have really sandy soil here, and we came into gardening as complete rookies. This year we went big. We started a second garden. We planted corn, watermelon, cantaloupe, carrots, lettuce, onions, potatoes, tomatoes, and cucumbers. We started seedlings in our dining room and we babied them from day one. We watched them progress for months as we moved them out to the greenhouse eventually and later into the garden. We picked weeds, we watered diligently. After months and months of hard work, we have almost nothing to show for it.
So guys, after months and months of growing, I did all my seedlings inside, I brought them out, I planted, I failed. Tomato cages, I tried putting them on. For whatever reason, these tomatoes grew up so big that the tomato cages just are not working. So I failed. The tomatoes are green. They've been this way for weeks now, and I don't know what to do with it anymore. I've been watering them, I've been fertilizing them, I've been doing everything, picking all the weeds. It just looks like a hot mess. Behind me, I have probably 6 or 8 more tomatoes that are growing, but they're still green. This is, I think, year 4 or 5, and I've been trying. I think it's our soil. I don't know. Give me some ideas. I give up. I don't want to garden next year. Our goats broke through the fencing. This is a double fencing. They got through it. I see a chicken in here right now. Our fence over there, we have a chicken wire fence over it. I don't know how they're getting in. I feel like a failure as a homesteader, as a farmer, as a person.
All in all, our garden has been a huge failure this year after so much time and so much effort. If the world were to shut down and we had to feed our own family from our garden, we would be done for.
Well, you're stuck, Bambi.
Of course it's right on a knot. Of course it's right on a knot. Of course it's right on. Failing is hard, but we can learn from it, and more importantly, we can help others who are starting out to not make the same mistakes we did. We don't want to discourage anyone from becoming a homesteader or gardening. In fact, we encourage it. But there are some things you could do from the start to make your life a lot easier that we wish we could go back in time and do ourselves. Here are some things we would do differently when we started homesteading 5 years ago to help have a more successful garden today. Number 1, we should have met our neighbors earlier and networked with them and asked them about their gardens. This one is so important. We have learned so much over the last 5 years of failure, but we could have learned much of the same in a simple 5-minute conversation with a neighbor who has already gardened in our area. They could tell us what crops do well in our soil and climate, what vegetables to avoid, how to treat our particular soil, and so much more. Instead, we've spent years of trial and error trying to hone in on the ideal garden when others around us have the answers we've spent so much time and so much failure to learn. Number 2, the garden should have been our number 1 priority. Instead, we first built a chicken coop. The garden came later, but should have come first. We should have tested the soil on day 1 and started composting on day 1 and started treating the soil on day 1. Frankly, we should have been all in on our garden from the first day, but instead we focused on chickens and goats and building projects when we should have been focusing on the garden. Number 3 is composting. This one is huge. We have composted, but we haven't been consistent or 100%. If we leveraged 100% of our compostable waste into our garden, we would have had much more success much earlier. It is so crazy how much food is wasted in our world today. What is even crazier is that we take that compostable waste and instead of returning it to nature, we seal it up into an airtight plastic bag and bury it into a landfill. So much food is wasted, but in addition, wasted food that could have at the very least been turned into compost. Number 4, garden groups. There are a ton of great garden groups on Facebook, communities on Reddit, resources and blogs about gardening on Mother Earth News. We should have spent more time in these groups and asked more questions from the get-go.
So those are things that we suggested if you're a new gardener. We're going to try things a little bit differently here. I'm going to do raised garden beds. I'm going to do more composting here, so we'll have it for better for next year. And I'm going to specialize in certain things. My cucumbers seem to work really well, so I'm going to do cucumbers next year that I know how to do, tomatoes. they're still green, but they'll turn red. So maybe next year I'll just try 2 or 3 different varieties rather than, 20 different things, and then try to plant it. This was new to us. This area in here, we thought that it was growing the grass and the weeds, that it would work, so it's not. So
in conclusion, we're not trying to discourage people from being gardeners or being homesteaders, but please do know that it is hard work. A lot of people in 2020 said, hey, I want to grow my own food because grocery stores, the world, it's unstable. You got another thing coming. You can't just start from scratch and expect to have a huge garden. This is year 5 now, and we're still learning. And if you watch other homesteaders, we saw a great video by Zach over at An American Homestead, beginning of the year when things started going crazy. He said the same thing, and boy, he hit the nail on the head with that. So many people trying to start a garden now that think they're going to just plant some seeds and water them and grow a bunch of food. It's not that easy. It takes a lot of work. We've been trying so hard. We put in so much work this year, from the seedlings into the greenhouse out to here, and we still had a major failure. So
it's a lot to learn, and we still have more to learn. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there laughing at us saying, oh, we could do it, or this is what you should have done. Tell us, let us know, let me know, what should I have done differently? I don't know. I'm a city girl, I don't know.
Yeah, we do have a lot to learn. We're always learning, but the other thing is, I think some people don't realize it really depends on your situation. If you live on the other side of the country, maybe you can plant a seed in the ground, water it, and get a nice big garden, but we've got really sandy soil, the climate, the temperature, the pests we have. There's a lot of different variables that can go into the success or failure of your garden.